So it wasn't that long ago that I went to Hamburg on a little bit of a holiday and we went to Miniature Wonderland. When we were there, we obviously went on the very famous S-Bahn and also the U-Bahn. So then when I saw this model coming up for sale, I had to have it because it would just remind me of those U-Bahn trains that we went on. This does look like a very interesting model to have a look at. It does have on it £113, that's not how much I pay for it, but it does seem quite expensive for that, but you do get 4 cars with this. This box is looking a bit bashed around the edges. But on the back here we have some technical information about the real train, as well as a technical drawing and some photographs as well. It's a very interesting and attractive box. And on the end we even have some photographs of the real train's bogies, and also this logo here from the manufacturer Leopold Halling. I've never heard of this company before and I've never seen their stuff before either, so this is going to be quite interesting for me to have a look at. It looks as though it has been made in Vienna though, not Germany as you would have expected. So without further ado, let's get this open and we'll check it out. So here is the model out of the box, and it already impresses with its detail and also the graphics and colours on it. It's really quite cool. But we do have a couple of issues that I guess have been caused en route to me. Not uncommon with models that get posted to you, but this one has some broken parts. So we're going to have to try and put this back together as we go through it. So this model does come with various destinations that you can put onto this model. So I've just taken the model apart as best I could, just to show you some of the pieces that make up this model and also show you what's actually gone wrong with this one. It's quite an interesting way that this model has been manufactured because everything's a push fit into one another. And I think it's very indicative of modern design, so I think this has actually been produced fairly recently. The first part that fell out of the packaging was this piece here, but this isn't actually for this model. I don't know which model this is for, but it's certainly not this model set, so this can just be put to one side for now. The biggest problem we have is that we have broken the connection between these two carriages, and this is also a fault of the ones at the back as well. This seems to be the Achilles heel here. I've just removed this bogie from this part here. This is how it should look with this little stud here, which this part goes around, and on this one it's broken off and it's actually around the little screw here. So this is obviously a design fault and it's the weak part of this model, but I think we could probably resolve this with a little bit of a nut and bolt through here just to hold this back together. Much of this model is actually just push fit, like these side parts here, which just slide into the side of here and push in, and that's all that's holding them in. And it is all plastic construction as well. These chassis have plastic bogies and all of this is plastic as well. So it's not the heaviest model, but it does have a bit of a space here where you could put in a weight if you think that's needed. The motors are very small here, and they drive these plastic drive shafts out to the front bogie, and the cable runs all the way to the back one as well. So we have pickup on the front 2 carriages and none on the back. So let's go ahead and see if we can fix this bogie and also the one on the other carriage. Okay, so that worked pretty well. It's always a bit scary when you're taking a drill to your models, but I've managed to get this bolt through here, and I've just put a bit of super glue on it just to hold it steady, but I didn't make it too tight so that this can move freely around. So I think that's a good fix. You can't really see it from the side, and I actually think it looks a little bit better than the standard one, but that's obviously a weak point on this model, which is a bit of a shame that that's happened. Anyway, I think it's time we better put this model back together. So it's quite an easy push fit. This is typical of the interior. It's just a piece of plastic with an indication of seats here, but obviously the floor is quite high because it's hiding the motor underneath. It does give you the opportunity to put some figures in here. The driver's compartment is pretty plain, and we have this very plain panel here which slots in behind the driver's compartment there to just close off the driver. So there's not a lot of detail on the interior of this model, and it could definitely be improved. And we also have these holes here as well. Now those could actually be for cables to go up to the roof to put in some lighting on this model if you wanted to, but this particular one doesn't have lighting. This is quite pliable plastic, it's got a lot of bend in it. As has the chassis, it's quite pliable as well. So these are just push fits, so I'll just go ahead and put these back together. So this is the trailer car. You can see it's just the same chassis. It has the little part here where you can clip in a motor, and the bogie as well is exactly the same as the driven one. It just doesn't have the gearing in it. So they have made these as interchangeable parts, which is quite interesting. But I'm now just going to put the trailer back together. So this is the driving car here, and we had this piece here that had fallen off. Again, this is just another push fit onto the front of the model here, and there's a couple of lugs there just to fix it in place. I'll get it round the right way. There we go, just a simple push fit and it's back together. So I can now put the power car back together as well. So here we have it back together. I'm really happy with that repair. I think it went really well. So now let's have a look at this a bit closer up. I've got the power car here. The previous owner has put in this destination board here. The way this model has been put together is quite interesting. It's all relying on the printing on the body here. So there's not deep relief on these doors at all, but what you do get is a really crisp outline, and the decoration of this rather striking livery is really quite good as well. The headlights here are just printed on, but they do look very convincing. We have a windscreen wiper as well, and that clear glazing where you can see straight inside, and of course it's flush fit because it's all the same piece. This was an extra part, we just saw that a moment ago, that pushes in here and it has some printing on it. Very nicely done, very crisp, and the number is also very clear as well. And further down we have this red buffer, very simple with these little pushers with a red paint on them there, which again has been masked extremely well. We have a dummy coupling hanging out the front here. I did notice that was screwed on underneath. So I guess you can remove that and fit a normal coupling if you want, perhaps an M pocket or something like that. And we have these bogies, so they all seem to be very similar. These two ones on this car on both ends are driven, and then we have this one in the middle which has no drive on it or any pickup either. And this is used to keep these two carriages together, but we did see the problem that it was broken there, but hopefully we've fixed that now. But it does have a lot of articulation here, and it allows you to see the ends of the coaches with the little grills printed on there. This part at the front is a separate piece and can be removed. We noticed that when we had the body off. And this silver part again is an extra piece which has been pushed in as well. These hatches are really nicely detailed. This is a separate part, again pushed in. And the bogies themselves have a fair degree of detail on them, but I think these are quite simple in real life, so therefore these ones are also very simple, but they're quite effective. So on the dummy unit it's very similar, but we obviously have a different number. This is car number 4. This is a 4-car set. You can see that the previous owner has put in the destination on the U2 line there. These would definitely benefit from a driver inside here because the glazing is so clear that you can see in no problems at all. We have things here like the number 4 for this carriage and the Hochbahn logo on the front there. These ones are not powered, but they have the same kind of bogie arrangement. And the fit in between the two is this dummy coupling as well. I'm not sure how well that's going to actually hold together. So let's see if we can get this 4-car unit together. I'm quite surprised these dummy couplings go together really quite firmly, and once they're together you can actually put a lot of pulling on it and it won't actually come apart. So that's quite interesting that they've opted to do that, but they've actually done it really well, and also it looks very prototypical too. Anyway, I don't have a test track long enough to run the whole 4-car set, so let's put the 2-car set on the test track and see how it runs. Okay, here we are on the test track, and as normal I've got my H&M controller powering this on 12 volt DC. Unfortunately you're not going to see this going that far, but I'll give it some power and we'll see what happens. So unfortunately not much, it just makes a humming noise and doesn't move. So unfortunately we're going to have to take this apart and have a look and see what's happening with the motor. So I think possibly one or both of these motors was just a little bit jammed, possibly because it's not been used for a while, but I gave it a little bit of a push with my thumb and then added some power and it seemed to work fine. So let's get it back together again. Okay, fingers crossed, let's give it another try. Okay, still no luck. I don't know, maybe I'll give it some oil. Okay, third time lucky. Well, thank God we finally managed to get it working there. And yet it's still not really that good. I've been tinkering around with this now for a couple of hours now, and I still can't get it working that well. And I think the problem is that it's got two motors here and they're not quite synced either. So one will start going and it'll start pulling the other one, and then it just wheel spins and causes problems. And I get a weird ticking sound as well at the gears too. So I've really got mixed feelings about this set. I really wanted to love this, but I think the mechanics are really letting it down. I think it probably could have benefited from just having a single motor, maybe a bit bigger, just driving one axle and pick up from the other. But as they've designed it like this, it isn't really that good. The other major design flaw is those little pins which are holding the bogies together. Obviously, when this came out the box, two of them were broken and I had to replace them with nuts and bolts. But that's another design flaw on this model. That aside though, I do actually really like the body shells on these and the moulding. These pliable plastics which have been used are really great. I don't think they're going to become brittle in the future, and they're less prone to breaking apart from that obvious design fault. And the body shell is absolutely fantastic. The printing is so good on it and it's so crisp and clear. It really does look quite fantastic. It sacrificed surface relief detail for this printing, but I think it's worked really well. And in my mind, this is the future of how model trains should be, certainly ones that aren't hundreds and hundreds of pounds. There is a lot to like about these models, but the flaw of the motor I think is really letting it down, and I think they could just be absolutely perfect if they just got the mechanics and that little design flaw corrected. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. Let me know what you think about this model in the comments below. I'd love to know what your opinion is, and if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel grow. I'll put one of these on the turntable so you can see all the way around, and I'll also put on screen another video which you can check out now. That's it for this video. I'll see you on the next one.